everyone. Today we're going to focus on our calf muscles. So when we're ready, we're going to find any easy seat. We'll allow ourselves a few moments to settle in. And as we do so, as we settle in, perhaps we can give ourselves a moment to just notice where we're connecting down to the floor today. Can we notice where the pressure is landing on our hips? Can we find our sit bones? Can we find those spots, one on either side of our hips that closest connect to the ground? Can we notice how the sides of our legs feel right now? The sides of our feet? Can we notice how it feels to have our legs crossed if we have them crossed? Can we think about the sensation of our knees as they are bent? Can we notice the sensation as one leg touches the other? Now, can we notice the sensation of our hands as they rest wherever it is that they're resting? And we'll give ourselves a moment to really notice those physical sensations. And again, maybe we come back to noticing how we're connecting to the ground, particularly through the hips, the sides of our legs, and the sides of our feet. Now, if we can, we'll think about how our body is connecting to the mat. The mat's connecting to the floor. The floor is connecting to the structure of the house or building. And that is connecting down to the ground. Now, if we can, I want you to reverse that, but now think of it as supporting up. So we'll think about the ground supporting up the structure of the building, and the structure supporting up the floorboards, and the floor supporting the mat, and the mat supporting us. And then if we'd like, we might take a few moments with that breath. Again, very much our time. Just a chance to breathe in. Just a chance to breathe out. Mindful that sometimes what we need is to just take a really big sigh to help reset things. So we might just take a full inhale and then sigh it out. You might even do that again for good measure, just taking in a breath and sighing it out. Now maybe today, as we give ourselves this vitally needed time to just sit and breathe, maybe find grounding, but maybe also just a chance to process a little bit. It's okay if your mind needs to wander sometimes. But if it works for us, I invite you to do the tree meditation or the roots meditation. So what we might do is we might think about, or at least imagine that it's ground that is directly underneath us, as if we are seated out on a lawn or on top of soil. And perhaps we imagine that roots are going to start growing down from underneath us. So the same way a tree's roots are going to start to grow down and out, perhaps we can imagine that as well. And maybe that happens on every exhale. So we might take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, those roots grow down and out. We might take another breath in, and on the exhale, those roots continue to grow and expand. And we might just continue this, that deep breath in when we're ready. The exhale expands those roots. Now we can make this whatever we need it to be. Some like to even consider this more as a tunnel exercise or a tunnel meditation, where every exhale they just dig into the earth a little bit more, a little bit deeper. That's a great alternative. We might like to imagine that those roots are getting more intricate, that they're not just growing down and outwards, but they're growing out. Smaller roots are growing from the bigger ones. Again, make this time your own. And if this isn't working for us today, we can just take that full breath in and full breath out. We can remind ourselves that while it is nice to focus our breath in, if what we need is to breathe deeply as the mind processes, that's okay. Just notice if every once in a while you can bring your attention to the breath fully, even if it's just for one breath, and then we go back to processing. So again, we're going to make this time our own. We're going to give this 3 to 5 more deep breaths. And as always, if we need more time, we can hit pause on the video and give ourselves that extra time. Now, when we are ready, we can bring our hands together at the heart and we'll pause for a moment. We'll set that positive intention. And what we might do today is we might repeat that to ourselves. We might use it almost like a bit of a mantra, especially when we find ourselves getting a little extra distracted or disheartened. If we're ready to quit early, if for no other reason than the mind wants us to quit, can we repeat that word? What is it that we want to cultivate? Is it peace? Is it presence? Is it strength? Again, make that time your own. We're going to take that breath in when we're ready. And on the exhale, we could rest our hands against our legs. And always mindful the eyes could stay closed for as long or as little as we need. And perhaps we start with our shoulder shrugs. So we could always bring our shoulders up towards the ears and we'll relax them back down. And we'll just repeat this movement as that feels good. So again, we're trying our best to think about breath-centered movement. So I know I tend to cue the movement first and then talk about breath. That is a great starting point. But I want you to eventually shift to the idea of I took a deep breath in and it guided my shoulders up, and a deep breath out and it brought my shoulders back down. Now, if we want a different breathing pattern, that's okay. Make this time your own. But again, I just want you to really think, I'm taking these deep breaths, and it is these deep breaths that are causing this movement. I'm not just moving my body and hoping that my breath can link up. So again, just deep breath in and deep breath out. Maybe one more round like this. Now eventually we're going to let our shoulders relax all the way down, and what we might do is we might just shake out the head a little, side to side. So we can keep doing this if the inner ear is okay with it. If not, perhaps we just look in front of us and just do a gentle nod side to side, a very gentle turns while we can still look straight ahead. But if we can, I really just invite you to move a little bit side to side. Nothing crazy here. We're just moving and warming up through the neck. If we'd like, we'll switch to those side to side nods. So we're just going to come back to center and just go side to side. Again, we're just trying to move through the neck, trying to loosen things up. Now we can do the turns, we can do this side to side nod. We can also combine the two, what I like to call letter C rolls. So what we'll do is the next time we come to one side, we kind of turn our head in slightly, and then we retrace our steps to come back, and then we turn or tilt to the other side, a little turn of the head in slightly, and then we come back, and then we might just repeat this. So we might think of this like we're drawing a letter C with the top of our head. So we draw this back of the C as we come up into the side, then that bottom curling in, and the top curling in. We can also think of this as with the chin, where the chin is almost making mountains. Like it's a nice sloping hill that comes up and slopes away, comes up and slopes away. Again, we're just trying to move through the neck. This is where we hold a lot of our tension, a lot of our stress, and unfortunately it does create a feedback loop. Now we're just going to keep doing that a few more times. Just notice how that feels. We're going to bring ourselves back to center when we are ready. Now once we're there, maybe another little head shake, maybe not, make it your own. And now we'll find more of a static stretch. So when we're ready, we'll let our right ear come over towards that right side. Now make this time your own. It might be completely lateral or lateral with a little head tilting up, head tilting down, little tuck towards the center like we were drawing that letter C again. Really just notice how that opposite side of the neck feels, and once you found that good stretch, stay with that. Now this might be our pose. Now, if it feels good for us, we can always take that same hand and bring it to our opposite shoulder. That's the shoulder that does not have an ear near it. If we would prefer, we could also just drape our wrist gently over the head. I prefer to place the wrist down, not the hand, because with the hand we're tempted to tug. And this is really just about a little extra weight on the head, nothing else. Now this might be our pose. Some people like to reach with the arm. Now maybe it's reaching straight in front of us onto the ground, or straight to the side of us towards the wall, or maybe down to the ground as well. Maybe we prefer to bend the arm behind the back. As always, none of these are better or worse. They just change the angle of the stretch, and we decide, all right, what angle do I need today? And once we find it, I really invite you to just sink into that. Can you notice what's holding in tension? I don't want you to force anything here. As I like to say in class, trying to force the stretch is like screaming at somebody to calm down. You're going to have the opposite effect. And instead, just notice what could soften on an exhale. Just take that deep breath in. And what can soften? Maybe another deep breath in. And out. Maybe one last breath here. Now if we're ready, we can gently bring everything down. We can come back up. If the head's a little, or the neck's a little sore, that's okay. We might like to do little head nods or little head shakes, really whatever we need. We can also do little side to side head nods. It's also okay if we need perfect stillness. Again, just really notice what your body needs right now. Now, only if we are ready to do this on the opposite side, we'll go over to the opposite side. So we're going to tilt over towards that left side. And again, I really want you to take a little extra time to find that right stretch. Again, it doesn't have to be the most perfect stretch to ever exist. I really just want you to explore, and once you find one that makes you go, yeah, I want to stay here for a little bit. Let's hold that one. Now, if we would like, we can always take our opposite hand or same hand to the opposite shoulder, or gently drape that wrist over the head. Now, good rule of thumb, if we're doing this variation and we can't stop that temptation to pull the head down, let's come back over to hand to shoulder. Let's just get rid of the temptation entirely. And again, whatever we want to do with that right arm, what angle feels good for you here? Again, we're just going to give ourselves some time. And nothing's forced. One side is probably a little more restricted than the other. We're asymmetrical creatures. We use our bodies asymmetrically. And typically our dominant side, it's a little more restricted. It's a little stronger, but the muscles are also a little tighter. Again, we're just trying our best to breathe in. And we're noticing what can soften on the exhale. So we're trying to breathe in. And what can soften? Maybe just a few more breaths. Now, when we are ready, we're going to slowly come back up. And again, it's okay if we're feeling a dull ache. Maybe we're doing that head shake. Maybe we're doing a little nod. Maybe we're drawing those letter C's with the top of our head, or making that little slope with the chin, whatever point of reference works best for you. Now, when we're ready, we'll come onto our hands and knees. And again, we're just going to get there however we need to get there today. And since we did spend a lot of time in a cross-legged position, maybe we start with some hip circles, letting our hips shift to one side, a little circle down and around. Now, one of the things I love to do, and I encourage you to do, is to really make these shapes your own. They don't have to be circles. Some people love those circles or find those circles very meditative, but if we also just want to zigzag a little bit, if we feel like our hips are a little tight in one area, we just want to move until we feel that tightness at least get addressed, we can. But again, nothing is forced here. We don't want to chase hip pops the same way we don't want to chase the stretch in our neck. It's not fun to accidentally pull any of those muscles around the hips. Trust me on this one. Now, if we are moving in circles, I invite you to go in the opposite direction. If you're kind of going free form, I invite you to at least explore what that would feel like if you went in reverse. What would reverse feel like? Now, when we're ready, we'll come back to center, back towards our table. Now, maybe we do a few cat-cow movements from here. We could always drop the belly down, and then we could round our back. Now, as we repeat this movement, I really want you to think, what breath do I want to do, and which breath would serve as the guidance or the guide to the next pose. So do I want to inhale and then round my back, and then exhale to drop the belly, or would I prefer to exhale and round my back, and inhale and drop my belly? Just a great time to notice what we need. If we're looking for a little extra back bend, a little extra chest opening, we're always welcome to lightly press the hands towards the knees and let our chest feed through a little bit. But again, nothing is forced here. You don't want to scream at your body to relax. We're just going to wind it down as that works for us, nice and slow. And once we are ready, once we can come back towards our tabletop position, we can give ourselves a moment for our wrists. Now maybe we want to shake them out, maybe we want to stretch them out, maybe we just need time off of our hands entirely, make it your own. Only when we are ready, we're going to come back to table, we're going to take our left leg, and we're going to keep the left toes on the mat as we extend the leg behind us. Now, if we can, I really invite you to really flex that foot, let that heel start to drive to the wall behind you. If you'd like, you're welcome to press your hands towards the front of the mat. Maybe you feel your weight shift back a little bit, maybe not. Again, we're going to take that moment here. We're going to take that breath in and take that breath out. One more breath. Now, if we're ready, we'll bring that leg in. We'll try the other side, so keeping the toes on the mat. We'll extend the leg behind us. Now, it might feel good to really flex that foot, maybe drive that heel to the back of the room. Maybe we can press our hands to the front of our mat. And again, really just make that time your own. We're just doing a little stretch, little warm up here, trying to help out those calf muscles. And again, strong or healthy calf muscles, robust calf muscles, kind of are part of the foundation to the rest of our body's health. Now we're going to do that another breath in. We're going to do another breath out. And eventually we'll let that knee come in. And again, we might need a moment here, a little shake out, a little stretch out. Now, if we are ready, we'll take a few moments in our child's pose. We're going to get there however it is we want to get there. Maybe today is a hands by our sides kind of day. Maybe today is a hands behind the neck. It doesn't even have to be a praying child. It could just simply be clasping the area by the base of our skull. If we prefer a praying child, we're welcome to let the palms meet. But again, I want you to make that time your own. We're going to try our best to breathe in. We're going to try our best to breathe out. Full inhale. Full exhale. One more full breath. Now, if we're ready, we'll find our way into our first down dog. So we're welcome to come up, readjust those hands. We'll curl our toes as we shift back and eventually up. Now today might be a day that we're really paddling out the heels, but again, nothing is forced here. And if you are like me, you might notice that your heels don't meet the mat ever, unless you really walk yourselves in and make a very tiny down dog. Nothing is wrong with that. At a certain point, muscle flexibility takes a backseat to bone structure. Your foot can only flex so much, even if you have the most flexible calf muscles in the world. So don't worry about whether or not your heels meet the ground. Just do a nice little paddling out, a little press of the belly to the spine. Keep that back protected. Again, just another breath in. Another breath out. Now, if we are ready, we'll find our way into our forward fold. As always, that's our time. How do we want to get there? And we'll just take a moment. It's our first forward fold. What do we want to do with it? Do we want to sway? want to take a deep breath in and then just notice without expectation what will soften on the exhale. Maybe another breath in. And another breath out. Now, if we are ready, we'll come up to stand. We're going to press through our feet. Those arms can reach up and overhead. And eventually, we'll let our hands find the heart. We'll pause here if that's possible. We'll take that breath in. We'll take that breath out. Now, if we're ready, we'll find our way into our chair pose. So we are trying our best to let the toes point straight ahead. If they're pointing out for now, that's okay, but we are trying to eventually bring them into a straight ahead position. We're gonna shift back and down, and likewise, we're gonna try our best to let our knees point straight ahead. We're gonna take a few moments in this chair pose, and while we're here, I'll mention that one of the reasons why, for some of us, it's very hard to have those feet face straight ahead. They tend to turn out. It's because our outside calf muscles are a little overactive. So again, just notice how that feels. Also notice where the feet are. Do we tend to roll onto our pinky edges? Do we tend to roll onto the big toe side? That also could mean something about our calf muscles. Possibly not. As always, I'm not a medical professional, but I am a yoga instructor who has you in this chair pose. And I know it's tiring, but we're trying our best to breathe in. Trying our best to breathe out. One more breath. Now, when we're ready, we'll find our forward fold again so we can readjust. We can come down, and we'll make this our own. What do we want to do with this? Do we want to hold on to our elbows for this one? Does it feel good to let the hands find the mat and do a light rocking forward? Do we want the hands behind us into a shoulder stretch? Really, what do we want to do today? We're just going to try our best to breathe in. And try our best to breathe out. Full inhale. Full exhale. One more breath. Now, when we are ready, we'll come up to stand. Now, we might press through the feet. Arms can reach up and overhead. And eventually, we'll let our hands find their way to the heart. We'll just take that moment to breathe in and breathe out. Now, when we're ready, we'll play a little bit with our balance before finding our high lunge. So that might mean getting closer towards the front of our mat. We can put weight into our right leg first. We're going to press that right foot down as the left knee lifts. Now the toes might stay down, foot might lift up. Now maybe we roll out our ankle today. Now we're welcome to stay with the lifted variation. If we feel like we can keep our weight in the standing leg, we're welcome to let the toes find the mat. And we're welcome to draw circles here. Now again, all the weight is in the standing leg. We don't want to put any weight here. That's a great way to sprain your toes. But we're also seeing if we can get a little stretch to the top of our foot. A little press forward maybe. Again, it's perfectly okay if we're doing this and it just feels kind of weird. Not a lot of things are moving. We all start somewhere. I remember how I was when I first started these. I know that standing leg might be getting tired, but we're almost done. Now when we're ready, we'll lift up that leg again. We're going to step back with that right foot. We'll find our high lunge. Now if we'd like, we'll play with a little activate and release for that back calf muscle. We're going to come up onto the tippy toes of that back foot. I want you to really drive that ball of the foot down. Drive the heel, or drive the big toe down as that heel lifts. Just think active through the entire leg. Deep breath in. Deep breath out, maybe one more breath. Now when we're ready, we'll relax that down and maybe we can drive the heel back just a little bit. Maybe not, just notice what happens there. We're gonna take a moment to breathe in. We'll take a moment to breathe out. Now if we would like, we're gonna come into some calf stretches and eventually our pyramid pose. If we know we'd like to use props for pyramid, I invite you to get those. So we can relax the arms down. We're going to straighten our front leg. We're going to bring our back foot in just a little bit, just so we can bring the heel straight down. Now, I really want you to look back. Notice what's happening with that back heel. If it's pivoted inwards, I want you to see if you can have it go straight back like we're on a set of cross-country skis. If you can't do that, I want you to shorten your stance until you can. You're welcome to come back for pyramid, but right now we're really trying to focus on the entirety of our calf muscle system. So again, just give yourself a moment. Both feet pointing straight ahead. Again, we would have to peer down and just make sure. Now, if we're ready, we'll take our front knee and we'll re-bend it for a moment. Nothing too crazy. If that back heel is popping up, we want to ease back. Just give yourself a moment with that. We're going to try our best to breathe in and breathe out. If you're like me, once that front knee bent, my back heel was trying to pivot inwards. That's my body trying to do that relative flexibility. There's a little bit of tightness in my outer calf muscle area, and my body's like, you know what we can do? I'll scoot your heel in. That way you can get into the pose, and we don't even have to worry about that outside calf muscle. But that's not what it's about. That's why we're focusing on what it feels like, not what it looks like. And when we're ready, we'll straighten the front leg. Now we'll bend the back knee. Now the back knee is only going to bend a little bit. I don't even know if it's noticeable or very subtly noticeable that my back knee is bent right now. Now we're going to try our best to keep those hips squared. We're going to try our best to bend that back knee, but not so much it makes the back heel pop up, just that first bit of resistance. Again, we're going to try our best to breathe in. Try our best to breathe out. Now, if we're ready, we'll find our way to pyramid. Now, pyramid, we might prefer to have even a chair in front of us or be near a table. Maybe we have blocks. Now, we can do pyramid with our legs straight or the knee bent. Make that time your own. Sometimes it's nice just to bring the hands onto the thigh, tilt forward, and think about that tailbone lifting to the ceiling, reintroducing that natural curve in our low back. This might be your pose, and for me, sometimes this is the version I prefer. Maybe my hands can touch the ground for pyramid, but that's really not what I'm focusing on. I'm really trying to just isolate some of my hamstring muscles, provide a little relief. Now, if we prefer, we are welcome to walk down, whether it's hands on the shins, hands on blocks, hands on the floor, hands on the chair, hands on the table. Again, what do you need? We don't want to think about what it looks like. We want to think about what it feels like. Again, our body loves that relative flexibility. If we tell it, I want to bring my hands down, it will shift in ways to get you there. But we might skip the very muscles we're hoping to stretch out. So we're hoping to breathe in and breathe out. Full inhale if possible. Full exhale. One more breath. On the strength of that inhale, we're going to press through. We're going to come back up, and we can step our back leg in. We'll take a moment if we can. Can we notice how that right leg felt? Can we feel how the left leg feels? Just kind of notice that asymmetry, if there is asymmetry. As always, when I talk about observing for things, we don't want to have the expectation we're going to find it. Easier said than done, I truly know that. Now, when we are ready, we'll put weight into our right leg, pressing that right foot down as the left heel lifts. Now, we're welcome to roll out the ankle. Maybe that we keep that foot high. Another option is to keep all that weight into that right leg and just roll over the toes. And again, it's okay if there's not a lot of rolling going on in our toes. It doesn't really look circular. We all start somewhere. Something I learned from my Tai Chi instructor who had these perfect circles, perfect roll over her toes as if she was a ballerina. And here I am, brand new student, I can barely do the circles. And that was 8 years ago. So this right here is a result of 8 years of doing these rolls. So keep that in mind. And we're almost done. It's okay if that standing leg's getting tired. When we're ready, we're going to find our high lunge. We can lift up that front knee. We're going to step it back. We'll let the heel stay up as we stay facing forward. Arms can reach as we are ready. Again, we'll just take a moment. We're going to take that moment to breathe in and breathe out. Now maybe we play with that activate and release. We're gonna come up onto the tippy toes of that back leg. We're gonna really drive the big toe down, drive the heel down. And we just wanna think active through the calf muscle area if we can get there. Deep breath in if possible. Deep breath out. One more full breath. And now on our next exhale, we'll let that relax. We'll let our heel drive back a little bit. Just pausing here if we can. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Now when we are ready, we're going to let our arms relax down. We'll let our front leg straighten. That back leg comes in, and we are spending extra time today to make sure that back heel went straight down. And really notice if the heel wants to pivot in. If that's the case, I want you to shorten your stance until that foot can come straight down. When we pivot in like this, that outside calf muscle is getting ignored, and it's the same reason why sometimes we can't get our feet to face straight ahead in our chair, and they tend to point out instead. It's the exact same mechanism, and we're trying to help find release for that. Now, if we're ready, we'll let our front knee bend, and we are spending a good amount of time in this stretch. Again, we can remind ourselves it takes upwards of 30 seconds before our nervous system recognizes it's okay to let these muscles release. So again, just give yourself that time. We're going to find a deep breath in. We can see what will soften on the exhale. And again, just because we're observing for it does not mean that we have the expectation of it happening. So we're just taking a breath in. And if nothing softens on the exhale, that's okay. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Maybe one more full breath here. Now when we're ready, we'll let our front leg straighten and we'll let our back knee bend. For some of us, we might notice all of a sudden that stretch went a lot lower. It's closer more to the Achilles area now. We want to be very gentle with this. So our tendons, they do stretch, and we do want to give them some relative flexibility. They do not stretch like our muscles. So we want to be very slow and very gentle. Tendon injuries are also very difficult to recover from. So do not force this. The last thing you want is an injured Achilles tendon. We're just going to take that breath in and that breath out. Now, if we are ready, we can let that relax. Both legs can straighten again. Now we can find our way into pyramid. Now, pyramid can be done with the straight knee. We can do it with the bent knee. Make it your own. Do you like the version where the hands are on the thighs and we're tilting the tailbone up? Do we like the version where we have our hands on our shins or on the ground? Again, make this your own. I spent a lot of time guiding us through not only this pose, but other previous poses, kind of talking us through it. This one I'm going to stay relatively silent. Let's see how, just our reaction to it, our experience with it. Maybe this can get another breath in and breath out. But when we're ready, we'll soften the knees, we'll press ourselves back up, we'll step our back leg in. Again, can we pause and just notice? Notice without expectations, notice without predicting, just notice how left leg feels versus right. Give yourself that moment, deep breath in and deep breath out. Now, if we are ready, we're actually going to turn sideways onto our mat. So now we're facing the width of the mat. If beforehand we were facing that top length part, or this is more the length of the mat where originally we're facing the width. It's all really a matter of perspective. Now, if we're ready, we're going to come back to our leg balance, but this time we're going to step the foot out into our wide-legged stance. So if we can, we're going to lift up, let's say that's our right leg. We're going to roll out the ankle. Maybe roll out in the opposite direction. We're welcome to play with those toe rolls here. We don't have to. And if we're getting foot cramps, we'll just ease back, but know that that's perfectly normal. Now when we are ready, we're gonna lift up as controlled as we can, and we might need to soften that standing leg to do so. We're gonna step that foot out and come into our wide-legged stance. Now taking a moment, we're gonna look down. We're gonna let our toes point straight ahead. They might even point slightly inwards. And again, we're really trying to focus on the outside calf muscle. That's kind of the unsung hero, the forgotten one. And if our toes are turning out, once again, that means we're skipping that particular pose or that particular muscle. So with our toes ever so slightly turned in, we'll find our way into our forward fold. So we're welcome to walk ourselves out. And we'll just take a moment here. This is also a good time to know that if we're ever in things like our wide-legged forward fold or triangle pose or warrior two, and we get a dull ache through that outside of our calf muscle area, you guessed it, that is from the outside calf muscle. That's usually a little overactive, a little tight, and that aching feeling, so long as it is not burning or stinging or unbearable in other ways, is perfectly normal. Now we're just trying our best to breathe in. We're trying our best to breathe out. Full inhale if we can. Full exhale. One more breath. Now, if we are ready, we're going to press through the feet. We're going to bring ourselves up, and then we're actually going to keep stepping over towards the right. So we're going to put a little weight into that right leg, press through it so we can step that left leg to meet the right. If we need to do more than one step, that's okay. From here, we are going to find our chair pose again, and we might, and I do want to say might, play with a little bit of ankle strengthening. So we might prefer our feet hips width distance. We might prefer them together. I know for me, if I put the feet together, I tend to sickle my heels out. So I'm going to stay hips width, but you make that time your own. We're going to shift back and eventually back and down. Now again, we can stay here. We don't have to add on. If we want, I really invite you to press through the ball of both balls of your feet and really think about the big toe side. Really press the big toe down. Maybe even a little grip of the mat. Now if we can, I want you to think pressing through the ball of my foot so much, my heels lifted straight up. So again, we're going to try to think straight up. Don't let them sickle out to the side. And as if we can, nice and mindful, they come back down. Now we might do that one more time. We're going to press through the feet. We're going to let those heels come straight up. It's perfectly okay if we're getting a little wobbly. Still press through those big toes if we can. We're just trying to strengthen our ankles, because sometimes if we have weak ankles, that results in the calf muscle tightening. One more breath. And mindfully, we're going to bring it down. We're going to come up for a moment. The arms can relax. We might shake the legs out a little bit. Now we'll take a moment in our legs relatively together, forward fold. We'll take a deep breath in as we lift up, and we'll exhale down. Now we'll take a moment here and really make this time your own. Maybe it just feels good to sway a little bit. We're going to try our best to breathe in. We'll try our best to breathe out. Now when we're ready, you're going to press through those feet, press belly to the spine as well as we come up. And we're going to step back into one more wide-legged forward fold. So we can take now our left leg. We're going to press through the right foot as the left leg lifts. And so again, we can roll the ankle with the foot lifted, or we can draw those circles. When we are ready, we're going to lift that leg up. Now maybe a little softness in that front knee as we send it out to the side. Nice and mindful, we're going to come down. Only this time, we're going to play with a variation of our horse stance. So what we'll do is we're going to try our best to let the feet point straight ahead. We're going to bend the knees, and we can just think like we're on the widest horse imaginable, kind of galloping. You don't have to have your hands like you're holding invisible reins, but if you want to, go right ahead, make this your own. So just take a moment and then notice, did I pitch my torso forward, and can I bring this back? So notice the feet might not want to stay straight ahead. If that's the case, I want you to come up a little bit or shorten the stance until you can. So we're just trying to help out a lot of muscles here. We're trying to help out our ankle complex, which again, as I mentioned, will affect our calf muscle area. And our calf muscle area affects the hamstrings, which affects the hips, which affects the low back, which affects the neck. It's one big set of dominoes. It really is. Again, we're just taking a moment here. If we've ever done any type of Chinese martial arts, we might have seen kind of a horse stance, only much narrower of a horse. If you have a little bit of a Kung Fu background and you want to do certain Kung Fu moves, you can, really make this your own. If you want to make a hybrid out of this class, do it. Just give yourself a few more breaths here. I know this can be challenging. We're just going to try our best to breathe in and breathe out. Now we'll come back up. We'll find a forward fold from here. So again, we're going to try our best with the toes pointed straight ahead. We'll just start to tilt forward and come down. We're just giving ourselves a moment here. Maybe it feels good to do a little sway, but again, maybe our inner ear doesn't like this, so we just stay still. And we're trying our best to breathe in and trying our best to breathe out. One more breath. Now as we're ready, we'll press through the feet. And now we're going to step back to the top of our mat. Put weight into that left leg. We'll bring our right foot in. We can step more towards the front. And maybe we do our flow back into our downward facing dog. So we can always inhale those arms up and overhead. We'll exhale into our forward fold. We'll inhale our halfway lift. We'll exhale to plant the hands. We'll step back. Now, we can stay in our downward facing dog. We don't have to do anything different. If we want to, we can play with our cross-legged down dog. We'll put a little weight. Maybe we start on that left side, put a little weight into the left leg as we lift up our right. And we just cross the ankle behind the opposite ankle, down behind that left ankle. And just give yourself a moment here. Notice if you can still let those hips shift up and back. I know for me, I tend to start shifting forward. My body's trying to avoid the stretch, so I'm just going to shift up and back. We're going to try our best to breathe in. Try our best to breathe out. One more breath. Now we switch. We'll bring that foot down. Now I've taken up my left leg, cross that ankle behind my right ankle, noticing if I am trying to shift my hips forward. Another thing is, notice if your tailbone is suddenly tucking under and your back is rounding. That's another way our body tries to avoid the stretch. So try your best to keep your back as neutral as possible, but again, don't overload it. You want to still be able to breathe deeply. So we're going to give this a deep inhale and a deep exhale. One more breath. Now we'll uncross and we'll come down into our child's pose. So what we might do is we might make our child's pose whatever we personally need it to be for the moment. Again, make that time your own. Now, if you would like, we might do the precursor to our king pose. Now, that might mean coming up for a moment, letting our knees go relatively straight ahead, especially if we had our knees out. We'll bring our bodies back down. We're going to lift the hips so we can curl the toes, and then we'll just shift back onto this. Now we might come back to child's pose, or we might do almost a semi-sphinx from here. Now mindful, we might stay here. We're just trying to introduce a little bit of a stretch into the arches of our feet, especially if we tend to have overactive calf muscles, maybe a tight Achilles tendon. That affects our plantar fascia. That's that lovely bit of connective tissue on the arches of our feet. And you guessed it, when it is inflamed, that is our plantar fasciitis. Now we're welcome to stay here. If we feel like there's further for us to go, we can come up onto our hands and do essentially a bit of a semi-kneel. If we're feeling comfortable, we can walk ourselves back until our weight is in the feet. Now, if you're like me, you might need to readjust the toes a little bit. My toes typically don't like facing forward. My pinky toes don't even meet the ground. But again, notice how this feels. Notice if your ankles are trying to sickle out to the side. And we're just gonna give ourselves a few moments here. I know this can get pretty intense. It's intense for me, but that's the whole point of our yoga practice. Noticing when it is intense, and that's not confusing ignoring pain. Always remember that. Just notice if it's getting intense, and if we can, we just take that breath in. We take that breath out. One more breath. Now, as we're ready, we'll slowly bring ourselves back. We can uncurl the toes. Now, we might need to tap them out a little bit. Now, we might even move our heels a little bit. If you're like me, it might even feel good to straighten out one leg with the toes pointed this time and just lightly press the toes down. And then come back. Press the toes down with the opposite side. Again, nice pointed foot. We'll bring that back. And now, if we're ready, we'll come to a seated position. Maybe hips will come down and we swing our legs around. Now we're welcome to shake out the legs. We're welcome to move a little bit. We might even kind of roll out the feet. Maybe we straighten out our toes or spread them out, and then kind of like we're trying to crumple paper with our feet. That also helps strengthen the arches of our feet. We can make essentially fists with our toes. And if you are like me, you make those fists for too long and you can feel it. Now when we're ready, we'll find our way into our bound angle. We're gonna bend the knees, let the soles of the feet meet. We might readjust as we want to readjust. And when we're ready, we'll find our way into whatever version we want. Now we might want the upright version where we stay tall. We might want the version where we come back and we do a shoulder stretch, lifting through the chest. We might want the version where we tilt forward, whether the hands stay where they are or we walk our hands out. Again, really make this time your own. There's a reason why I give these options. I really want you to decide the version that works best for you, especially if you have any disc herniation going on in your back. I truly recommend against leaning forward unless your doctor has cleared you for that tilt forward. So again, make that time your own. Do what you personally need, what's going to best nourish your body. We're going to try our best to breathe in. We're going to try our best to breathe out. Full inhale if possible. Full exhale. One more breath. Now, if we are ready, we'll come back up. We'll let our legs straighten out. Maybe a little shake out, maybe moving the feet. We'll find our way into a twist, so we can always take in the right knee, and if it's comfortable, we'll cross it over the left. Take a moment to lengthen out that back, really press those sit bones straight down. And if we like, we can do our hands-free twist, where we take a deep breath in, hands are hovering. On the exhale, we twist towards that right side, and then when we can't twist anymore, that's when the hands go wherever the hands are gonna go. Now, it's perfectly okay to add in a little tractioning, a little light pressure, so long as you're not cranking the twist. Again, you don't want to shout at your body to calm down. You will get the opposite effect. So gentle coaxing. So that deep breath in, that deep breath out. That's how we coax the body into release. So deep breath in, deep breath out. One more breath. Now when we're ready, we can come back to center and we counter twist. So we can counter twist to the other side. Now we're welcome to stay upright with this particular pose. Another option is to plant one hand down or two hands down. We might even prefer to walk the hands out. We might try to keep both hips on the mat. But if we prefer a variation where the hip lifts, that's okay. That just means we're focusing a little less on the back and it becomes a slightly different pose. Now we're trying our best to breathe in. And breathe out. And then when we're ready, we'll come up. We'll come back to center. We'll then cross our legs. Might shake them out. We might move them out. Now we'll try it in the opposite direction. We'll bring in our left knee. We can cross it over the right. We get nice and tall. And then maybe hands free. We take that deep breath in. Exhaling, we twist to the left. Hands free. And then when we can't twist anymore, we'll hold. Now can we give this a A couple more deep breaths. So we're going to try our deep breath in, our deep breath out. Now can you give this 3 more breaths? When we're ready, we're welcome to come back to center. We're welcome to counter twist in the opposite direction. Again, make that time your own. Do you want upright? Do you want to plant the hands down? Reach out? Whatever do you need here. So we're going to try our best to breathe in. And breathe out. One more breath. And when we're ready, we can come up, we can uncross, we can shake, we can move, we can do little point and flexes with the toes, or curl up the toes and straighten them out, or even point the toes and then kind of curl them in. Oof, I can feel that one. Now when we're ready, we'll come down onto our backs. Now get there however you need to. And again, make that time your own. We're not rushing any of our transitions. And once our back is on the mat, we're welcome to hug the knees and rock a little bit. We're welcome to draw circles with the knees. And so our last guided pose is our supine bound angle. We'll be holding it for a little bit, so we might prefer to get pillows or blocks or really whatever we need. We can plant our feet down. We'll let the soles of the feet meet as the knees go out to the side. Maybe we need to readjust the hips, readjust the shoulders. And we might even close the eyes from here. Now, if we would like, we might come back to that roots meditation. We might imagine that roots are starting to grow down in the earth from directly underneath us. I personally like to imagine that those roots are growing essentially from the center or center to lower part of my back, but we can do whatever we need. Where I just take that deep breath in. On the exhale, those roots expand, that deep breath in. And on the exhale, they expand. We are welcome to pair this up with our belly breath, that deep inhale. And the exhale, where the inhale expands the belly, and the exhale lowers it down. Again, make that time your own. Take in the inhale. Maybe imagine those roots on the exhale. And again, this is our last guided pose. And this is our chance really to ask ourselves, would I like to stay here for longer? Is it time for me to come out? And if I'm coming out, what would I like to come into next? Again, that might be a different pose. It might be coming to our version of Shavasana. We typically do a lot of supine twists. Today we did not, so if we want to add those in, we're welcome to. Again, really remember that you have the power to make this pose and make this practice your own. I'm really just here for suggestion and safe facilitation. And again, whenever we are ready, we'll settle into the Shavasana of our choosing. If you want a longer one than this class will provide, and this class typically has about a 2 to 3 minute Shavasana, I invite you to hit pause and set a timer on your phone. Give yourself that extra time. If you are following along with the video, I'll be playing the singing bowls. Eventually, I will let them fade into silence. Then I will ring my chimes and guide us back into our easy seat. What we do between now and then is entirely within our power. Start with our deep breath in and that deep breath out. Now we can return movement as movement feels right. I invite you to go nice and slow, perhaps even imagining what it would feel like to wake up on the most relaxing morning ever. What would we stretch as we slowly brought ourselves from non-movement into movement? How would we move? We can build up that movement as we can. Now I invite you, especially if we find we are tempted to hop out of Shavasana, can we delay that by even one breath? Now eventually we'll make our way to our easy seat. And again, just make that however you want to be. Nice and slow, we'll all settle into our cross-legged position. No rush. When we are ready, we'll bring our hands together at our heart and we'll pause. We'll seal in our practice with that moment of gratitude. And perhaps today we thank ourselves for taking that time to practice our yoga, especially if it felt distracting, especially if we felt unmotivated. Give yourself an extra thanks for doing that extra work to get yourself onto the mat. And then whatever meaning of Namaste resonates for you today, and perhaps today it is the courage within me recognizes the courage within you. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your practice. Namaste.